Can some foods decrease arthritis pain? And what diet works best against this condition? All the answers coming up. Hey there, it's Olly from Health Recommendations, bringing you the latest health guide. So if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. You can find this full guide on my website, mysupplementadvice.com, or you can check it out by clicking on the first link from the description box. And today, it's all about rheumatoid arthritis and foods. So, what diets can help ease your arthritis pain and stiffness? Well, I selected the top 8 ones that will surely help. Now, before I get started, I just wanted to tell you that these 8 aren't some actual diets. Instead, they focus more on adding a certain food to your daily regimen instead of giving up certain foods. That's why they are a lot easier to follow compared to a regular diet. Now, this being said, it's time to begin, and I'm going to start with my top recommended diet for RA. Turmeric is definitely the best natural remedy when it comes to RA. Among all herbs, it has the strongest anti-inflammatory properties and the best effect when it comes to relieving pain. And there's one more thing, it also seems to reduce the intensity and frequency of pain flare-ups. That's why I consider it the top secret when it comes to arthritis. Now, how can you follow this diet? Well, it's quite simple actually. All you have to do is to add turmeric to your daily regimen. Now, I recommend using it both as a powder and as a supplement. So, how exactly can you do this? Well, I would start with the powder. All you have to do is to add it to the foods you cook. Since turmeric is a great spice, it's going to make your foods a lot tastier. The biggest problem of turmeric is that it has a really poor absorption normally, and that's why it needs absorption boosters like BioPerine, in case you heard of it. However, you can only find turmeric combined with absorption boosters in supplements. That's why they're my top recommendation if you want to get the most of turmeric's benefits. Plus, that turmeric supplements have a much higher dose of turmeric compared to the powder, so I strongly recommend going for a supplement as well. When it comes to the powder, pretty much all products have the same composition, so there's no certain brand I recommend. All I advise you is to choose a organic product, because in this way you can definitely get the most of turmeric's benefits. And when it comes to the supplement, I would strongly recommend going for Vita Balance Turmeric Curcumin Plus. I looked into lots of turmeric supplements, and this was by far the best in terms of quality per price ratio. And by this I mean that it has a really good quality, but compared to most of its competitors, it's considerably cheaper. So if you want to make the most of your budget and get the best turmeric supplements for the lowest price, I would surely go for this one. So make sure to use both the supplement and the powder if you want to get the most from this herb, because it's really worth trying when it comes to arthritis. I definitely don't know any better herb. This diet is actually based on leafy vegetables, which are a major source of antioxidants. Now, how do these antioxidants help? Well, they fight free radicals and thus reducing pain intensity and decreasing joint damage. Compared to turmeric, vitamin C doesn't have such a powerful effect on inflammation, but it's still good enough and it can still help and have an impact on your symptoms. Actually, some users swear by it, and they claim that it really helps reduce their flare-ups frequency, which is definitely a major thing. Now, if you want to follow this diet, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is to consume more leafy and green vegetables, but also certain fruits. So what foods am I talking about? Well, here's a quick list. Celery, spinach, cabbage, zucchini, cucumber, citrus fruits. But it's not all about green veggies. Actually, every food that is rich in vitamin K is more than recommended in this diet. I'm talking about fish like meat, cherries, and many other foods that you surely like. Actually, you can check on the internet to see if your favorite food is rich in vitamin C or in antioxidants. And if it is, that's an extra reason to consume it a lot more often than you're actually doing now. This diet is extremely simple, but it has a lot more benefits than you think. That's why I would truly recommend it, and I would truly advise you to give it a try, because you're not losing anything, but you have a lot to gain. This particular diet promotes consuming a mix of apple cider vinegar daily. You surely know apple cider vinegar. It's the home remedy that seems to be good for everything, and arthritis doesn't seem to make an exception. Some sources claim that it can decrease arthritis pain significantly, and that's surely true because there are lots of users who swear by it and lots of people who have actually had great results with it. Plus, that apple cider vinegar seems to be really helpful and good, which is another form of inflammatory arthritis. So, what does this diet require? Well, don't worry, you won't have to drink apple cider vinegar all day. It's actually all about adding a mixture made from this drink on your daily regimen. You don't have to give up any food that you like. So, here's how you can make this drink. Start by adding a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar into a glass. Mix it with 8 ounces of water and half a tablespoon of honey if you want it to taste nicer. You can also add some cinnamon or lemon juice once again for a better taste. And all you have to do is to mix them up together. Once you got that mix, all you have to do is to drink a glass of it daily for about a couple of weeks, and your arthritis pain should get better in time. It's definitely not an overnight remedy, so it surely takes time. But if you're patient, you will surely see some results and some improvements in your pain and stiffness. You should also note that this diet doesn't have any clinical evidence behind, and some people actually claim it doesn't work, but there are lots of users who swear by it, so I thought that I should definitely include it in my list since some people had great results with it. Now, in case you don't really like the taste of this mix, that's totally fine. You can also use apple cider vinegar supplements. You can find a link for a good product in my description. The supplement does pretty much the same thing. I just feel like the drink is a lot easier alternative for most people. So either you choose the drink or the supplement, it's totally fine. You should get the same benefits from this remedy. On the long term, whole grains reduce inflammatory levels, increase energy, decrease oxidative stress, so all these things can have a major impact on your RA. Plus, whole grains reduce the risk of complications and secondary conditions caused by RA like diabetes, heart problems, and so on. That's because they contain a high quality of fibers which are really helpful when it comes to general health. On the other hand, refined grains are actually dangerous because they promote inflammatory levels and consequently pain. So how can you follow this diet? Well, it's quite simple. All you have to do is to replace the refined grains product that you consume with the ones based on whole grains. Start consuming more brown rice, oatmeal, more crackers based on whole wheat, as well as whole wheat pasta or bread. And on the other hand, try to give up regular bread or regular pasta or everything that has to do with refined grains because they are really dangerous. And if you want to get the most of whole grains benefits, try to consume them as much as possible. Luckily, at this point, there are lots of products based on whole grains on the market, so finding them shouldn't be an issue. Did you know that fish oil is an excellent remedy against inflammation? That's because it contains omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, which have some major anti-inflammatory properties, plus that they really boost cartilage health and they improve joint lubrication. Now, it's true that most of these compounds can be found in fish oil, but they also exist in the meat itself. So you can try consuming more fish and even replacing the meat you usually have with fish. And you can pretty much have any kinds of fish. Now, if you really don't like fish and you can't stand it, you can also replace it with fish oil supplements. They actually have a much stronger anti-inflammatory effect compared to fish itself because they're more concentrated. And you surely know that fish oil supplements are some of the most recommended when it comes to arthritis and inflammation. So they surely have a great job when it comes to relieving RA pain. But in my opinion, consuming fish and adding it to your diet is a lot more simple and a lot more tasty than using it as supplements. So it's totally up to you. Just make sure to add fish to your diet. That's definitely a must. Tart cherry juice seems to be an excellent anti-inflammatory. Some arthritis sufferers swear by it, and there's also some clinical evidence behind it, which is a major advantage. Now, keep in mind that not every cherry juice can help arthritis. It's actually all about the tart cherry drink. So the others don't really seem to have any anti-inflammatory properties. Tart cherry juice is the strongest of them when it comes to this, but keep in mind that it's not going to work amazingly alone. So if you only want to use tart cherry juice, just make sure that you consume it for at least some months before you expect seeing some improvements in your RA. Now, what kind of tart cherry juice should you go for? Well, my top recommendation is to prepare it at home and use only organic ingredients. You can find many recipes online, so you can follow any of these and you will get the same result. Now, if you really cannot prepare it at home, I recommend going for an organic brand. There's no certain brand that I would recommend because most of them contain the same thing, but make sure that you choose an organic company. Garlic seems to work amazingly against inflammation, but there's more. It also strengthens the immune system and reduces the risk for RA complications. So, adding a tiny little piece of garlic to the foods you cook can surely have a major impact on your general health. That's a really small tip that can bring you some major benefits in the future. That's why I recommend going for it, even if your arthritis form isn't very severe or even if you're feeling better for a while. You surely heard about olive oil's benefits when it comes to arthritis. It prevents joint and cartilage damage, and it also lowers the risk of RA for people who have a family history of this condition. Now, obviously, it's one of those remedies that is too weak to work on its own, so you actually have to combine it with some of the other remedies that I included on this list. But following this diet is really simple. All you have to do is to replace your regular cooking oil with olive oil. If you're already doing it, it's totally fine, it's perfect. But if you're not, replacing your cooking oil with olive oil can have a major impact and can start your pain-free lifestyle. So what's the best diet for rheumatoid arthritis? Well, to be honest, I would have to say that it's actually a combination of several foods. Now, you have to know that there's no diet that can cure arthritis. If there was, everyone would be using it, but that's definitely not the case. However, certain foods combined together can really ease the symptoms and can really decrease pain on the long term. Those foods that I'm talking about are turmeric, leafy vegetables, apple cider vinegar, whole grain products, fatty fish, tart cherry juice, garlic, and olive oil. Now, even adding all of these 8 foods to your diet will not cure your arthritis overnight. You're not going to see any improvement in a couple of days, but if you continue to consume all of these 8 foods on the long term, you should see some improvements in a couple of weeks or at most in a couple of months. Since they are a really cheap and a really simple solution, I definitely think they are worth trying. I'm not claiming they're going to cure arthritis, but they might help, especially on the long term, especially if you are patient and you are consistent. So I strongly recommend combining all of these foods. They should help on the long term. And since they are so easy to find and so easy to consume, I really think you should give them a try. After all, there's nothing you're losing, but you have a lot to gain if this diet works. That was pretty much all for today. I really hope you enjoyed this guide and that you could find some useful information here. In case you have any questions, just leave a comment below and I will gladly answer. So, see you next time.